During the Revolutionary War, the United States fought the British for its freedom and won. But Great Britain still controlled the oceans, and they wouldn't let America trade with France. So, in 1812, the United States declared a war on Great Britain again. After 2 years of fighting, the British decided to attack up the Chesapeake Bay. They attacked Washington, D.C. and burned the White House. The British took some prisoners, including the innocent old Dr. Beans. A lawyer named Francis Scott Key wanted to go free Dr. Beans. So Francis Scott Key and Colonel Skinner sailed out to the British in the bay. The British let Dr. Beans go free, but they wouldn't let their ship go back to the land yet. First, the British were going to destroy Baltimore, and the three men were just going to have to watch while they did it. Meanwhile, the Americans were preparing to protect Baltimore. Baltimore was the third largest city in America, and it would be disastrous for the young country to lose it. A huge fort called Fort McHenry stood outside the city waiting to blow up any ships that came close. They also built a huge line of defense just outside the city. The British began marching up towards the city. The Americans came out to stall them, while the rest of them finished their fortifications. The British won the fight, but then they came closer and saw that they wouldn't be able to take the city by land. They had to bring their ships into Baltimore Harbor to bomb the city, but that meant they had to get past Fort McHenry. The British bombed the fort, but they couldn't get close enough to hit it very well. So the British and the Americans bombed away at each other all day and night. Francis Scott Key and his friends tried to watch from their boat, but it was dark and they couldn't see what was happening. Eventually, the bombing stopped, but they had no idea which side had won. Francis Scott Key kept looking through his telescope to see if there was a flag still flying. Eventually, in the dawn's early light, he saw the Star-Spangled Banner. America had won. The British sailed away, and a few months later, the United States and Great Britain agreed to stop fighting. Francis Scott Key started writing a poem about the night of the bombing. Americans loved it. It would later be set to music and become the national anthem. Today, Fort McHenry still stands. It is now a national monument and a historic shrine. Let's go visit the monument. Welcome to Fort McHenry. At the Visitor Center, you can learn more about the Battle of Baltimore.
Knowing they were the last defense to thwart the British. Turned into rain-soaked night.
Major Armstead is honored for protecting the fort during the battle. There is also a statue of Orpheus, built in honor of Francis Scott Key. Orpheus was a Greek hero of music and poetry. Now on to the fort! The gunpowder was stored in here so it could be safe and dry. Inside the fort, you can see the barracks where the soldiers stayed. Did Francis Scott Key really see the flag? He stated that he saw the flag of our country waving over the fort the morning after the battle. This is the officers' quarters. They would be much nicer than the troops. Here is where the gunpowder was stored. We're under attack! Major Armistead has orders for us. Man your stations and prepare to fire. Aye, aye, sir. Aye, aye, sir. The British are coming. And the flag still stands. We won! Baltimore is saved. See you